Are we live? So we're starting a podcast, and we decided to have one of our newest added employees be involved in this. So from where we've begun, right? So you basically, let's just start from your background. I always like when people find out, like, who are the people in the fragrance industry. So where did you actually come from before you started working here and became part of the family?
Well, what's your name first? State the record.
I'm Lukas.
Nice to meet you, Lukas.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, cool.
All right.
And it's okay. It's not you're in front of the firing squad, so don't be nervous. All we're
Okay.
trying to do is kind of find out your background, kind of what you've learned so far, and then
Who you
what's
are.
going to be expected of you moving forward, and how do we actually see you like taking over the industry. But I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're born in the industry. You have to know somebody. So just be honest. Where did you come from, and how did you stumble upon AFI?
Well, I honestly didn't even know the fragrance industry was a thing
Oh, that's awkward.
Okay.
before I started working here.
Same.
But my sister had been working here for about a year, and I had recently been in between jobs, so she put in
Unemployed,
a good,
that's
yeah,
good.
Unemployed, yeah. But yeah, and then Claire just told me to come in, introduce me to everybody one day, and I started the next day. So
Okay, so we had a need. We were looking for someone to fill a position. Your sister worked here, and she said, hey, my brother would probably be a good fit for that. Would you guys be interested? We brought you in for an interview.
Yep.
Okay, so what were you doing before this? So like,
right before
were
this,
you
I was
a chemist? Were you McDonald's? Were you?
no,
you know.
no, not a
A
chemist,
rapper?
Definitely.
Okay, yep,
Right before this, I was working in a warehouse, just
Okay.
shipping home decor.
I got
That's
you.
it. Just putting it in the box, putting the label on the box, stacking it on pallet.
Did you like it?
That's it.
Okay,
No, it was. After a while, it gets old.
How long you was there for?
Okay.
I was there for exactly a year.
Why'd you stay there so long if you didn't like it?
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there. I mean, I didn't have to look for
Well,
another
literally,
job. Yeah.
I came in through a staffing agency going for a forklift job. That's how I started, right? So I think a lot of people don't understand that when you come into this industry, you kind of stumble into it, and it's either you like it and you stay long term, or you come in and you last 2 weeks and you're gone. I mean, it's either you like it or you love it, right?
Well, yeah.
So I think when you came in, you hit the ground running. You've really enjoyed it. I see you in multiple areas doing multiple things. So it's just interesting that you came from warehouse background, nothing to do with it, but instantly you came in and nailed it.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't really know how. I mean, the warehouse job didn't really play into that at all. I mean, there's just always something to do here, so I like that about it.
What's the most intriguing thing about it that you're like, wow, that's kind of cool?
Probably the extractions. I mean, I've never done anything like that before coming here.
Yeah.
So this is going to date me a little bit, but like literally, there used to be a show called Mr. Wizard, and this guy would like do all these weird like home chemistry things, right? And I mean, this was popular like in the 80s or something, so I know you're going to be like, I have no clue what you're talking about. But literally, when I started working, I was like, this is great. I mean, it's totally new. I'm walking in the labs. I'm seeing the chemicals. I'm seeing the crystals, the powders, the essential oils, and it was just totally new to me, and I hated repetition. So I kind of saw you coming in, and you were like, okay, this is something new. Let me learn this. Okay, well, let me learn what that person's doing. And then you kind of started branching out. So you saw extractions. You thought that was neat. So let me actually say you are working with projects, which are customer issues that come in. So whether it's creating something or developing something or extracting something, so you're working with the lab. So that's where you kind of landed.
So is that lab or R&D?
So research and development is we're trying to figure out what's going on. So I would say you're more in the developmental R&D side, where we have other labs, which is quality control,
Right.
which now we're kind of getting you involved in. And on the other side, we have a sample lab, which is just getting our product out to people so they can do some testing, right? But I even think you're in there compounding, so you're even doing
Yeah.
some of that. So literally, you're in 3 labs coming in new, and you're under 90 days. So that's pretty good. Like, if we thought you weren't competent, you'd be like in a closet somewhere, and every once in a while we'd give you a sheet of paper, and you'd be
Well,
working.
yeah, I don't think I would have lasted this long.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see everything that goes into like a finished product.
It's weird, right, to think
yeah.
that the industry is so big, and prior to working here, it didn't even cross our minds.
Yeah, like you smell a candle, you don't ever think about where the fragrance comes from, you know.
And then another thing
take
that
it for what it is.
another thing that we've talked about before, you're oblivious to the fact of what it is. So when you see something and it says strawberries, you think, oh, there's real strawberries in that thing. No, it's a whole bunch of raw materials that
Yep.
makes it smell like it. Unless it's an essential oil, but then that's a different subject. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny. And like, I think just even us earlier, we are talking about how you, same thing he said, you came in, took the round. I mean, you took off. I see you in one department. I come in the next week. I see you in another department. I'm like, Lou out here learning.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so much to learn, you know.
There's a lot to soak in. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a lot.
And then, of course, on the other side of that, you know, you have your sister working here, so your sister can't outshine you. So you
Can't
got
do
to
it.
step it up a little bit.
Big
Yeah.
bro got to come out on top.
Yeah, got to try at least.
Yeah,
She's got a head start, but I might catch her, you know.
maybe,
Maybe.
I like it.
maybe not. Sorry,
Oh, well.
So,
she's smart.
so long term, so we got you in the labs. You're kind of learning a little bit of everything. When you started compounding the fragrances, what was your outlook on that?
Well,
I think a lot of people, it's the precision, I think, surprises people. That literally we put a drop, one drop,
oh yeah.
and that could make or break a compound.
Yeah, some of those chemicals are strong smelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the difference of putting one drop, what does it really affect the fragrance? Because we sell fragrance, does it change the color? Does it change what is used in a product? Or what is the biggest change that happens when you mess up?
When you mess up, it does not smell like what it is supposed to smell like.
Correct. So the biggest thing you see is if you put one drop, because you're only making 100 grams, so literally that's a very small amount. So one drop completely changes the odor. So that product that you were making that's now supposed to be a cherry kind of went from a sweet cherry to a sour, rotten cherry
Right.
because it was miscompounded. So I think when you're compounding it, we basically QC it by smelling it at the end. So we have someone who has a target, and then they smell what you compounded, and then when they smell those side by side, it's either you did it right and you get a way to go, or they smell it and say, do it over again, something's wrong,
Yep.
right? So if we get an employee in and they're really not that good, like literally their first couple of weeks, bad, have a couple conversations with them, bad, out. Right? But literally, I haven't even heard of any issues with you compounding, so it must have been going well. Or there's been very limited because they didn't bring it to my attention.
Yeah, well, I just try to
Try to be
go
accurate.
slow. Yeah, not get in a rush because that's when you'll mess it up.
How was it like the first time? Like, was it overwhelming when you saw all the lines? You're like, I got to put 0.4% of this and 0.52 grams of this, and I mean, at least when I saw it the first time, I was like, what? And I was like, you know, this is going to make birthday cake? Like, what the heck? And, you know, you smell, well, I mean, I don't know if you did, but you smell the raw material before it goes in, like the first time because you're curious. You're like, ugh,
Oh
this
yeah,
smells
by
bad.
themselves.
Yeah, you're like, oh, whoa, what? This is birthday.
I think that was the thing that kind of caught me off guard. So I'd smell a bottle and I'd be like, okay, I'm making this sweet candy raspberry.
Right.
But I'd smell one bottle, man, this is horrible. I
Right.
mean, this smells like brake cleaner. And then I'd smell the next one. I'd be like, there's no odor in this whatsoever because it's a carrier oil, right? And then as I started going along, oh, this is sweet. Oh, this kind of smells a little bit of a berry. Ooh, this is very sweet. But the outcome, oh, this one's green. But the different percentages at the end, it was fire.
It's
It was the
crazy.
best
Yeah.
raspberry ever.
Makes
And then
no-
when I was like, wait a minute. So I use the same raw material, the same stuff, and now I make a watermelon just because it's different percentages. And then I make another one and it's a floral and it smells just like a bouquet. But it was the same ingredients, just different percentages. That blew my mind. I
Yeah.
mean, completely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then the first thing they told me when I first came in here, that was like, one drop is the difference between $1 and 1 million. And I didn't get it. That was before I went into the lab, and I was like, what are these people talking about, man? Like, let's just get to work. And they sat me in front. They gave me the sheet. I messed up my first formula because it was supposed to be raspberry. Came out smelling like dog feet.
Dude.
What the heck? But then you see, because, you know, you're over. This is technical for the people, but like you're over point. If it's a 50 line and I'm over 20, they're like, oh yeah, well I messed
You're giving
up.
a percentage.
Yeah, like.
So if you're over 0.01%, basically it's scrap. Start over.
And
Yeah.
it was like bad. I'm talking. My first formula was bad. I was like, and I messed up twice. Yeah, it was a rough day. For me.
So you've learned compounding, which is good. You've learned extractions, which is good. Now you're learning the QC side. So on the QC side, that's where we solidify, this is our product. You buy it once today, you buy it 6 months from now, you buy it 5 years from now, it's always the exact same, right? So it's kind of interesting that you've come in and absorbed so much information so fast, because literally most people, that would be 6 or 9 months.
Right.
And you literally have been thrown in the middle of the blender in a 6-week training camp. So I think that shows a lot of people think well of you. Yeah.
And then plus he got good people around him.
Right.
I think he's asking the right questions to the right people, and the right people is helping him out. And I think you're out here just being the man.
I'm trying to learn everything I can.
There used to be an old guy that worked at one of my other companies I worked at.
Why he gotta be old?
And he would be like, well, this guy was like 70, right? He should have retired a long time ago. And he'd be like, hey, what contract they sign you to? I'd be like, what you talking about? He's like, well, what contract? Like when they hired you, what contract did they give you? They give you the 1 year, they give you the 10 year, they give you the lifer, right? And I'd be like, well, they never gave me a contract. He's like, oh man, they ain't serious about you,
Dang.
right? So then I let it go. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. So we hired the next guy. He does the same thing to him. Next guy comes in. So it was a joke that he had amongst himself, right? But it seemed to carry on, really. So now people were like, oh, I had the lifer contract. You know, I had the 10-year contract, right? And that's kind of the mindset that you kind of have when you bring people in. Like literally, when we go through your 90-day evaluation, we'll look at that guy and be like, okay, is he going to be here 1 year, 10 year? Is he going to be a lifer, right? Your sister, guaranteed lifer. You, right now, you've only been here 6 weeks. You already moved up from the 1 year to probably the 10 year, right? You do a little bit better, now you're a lifer with your sister, right? So that's kind of how
That's the only
we
time
try
you
to
want to
progress
hear
your future.
an older person tell you life, like life.
Yeah, not prison sentence life. Actually like it, enjoy it, learning new things.
Do you like it?
type of thing.
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy it.
What don't you like about it? It gotta be something you don't like.
What I don't like,
All the numbers, it's overwhelming.
yeah. Sometimes there's a little bit of math involved.
I've been in there a couple of times that I still trying to figure out the equation. He'd be like, but again, it goes back. I'm like, hey man, just take your time. He's like, yeah, but if I don't get it right, the customer's not happy.
Goes back to me,
Yeah,
all
and-
rolls downhill.
And then you look at him, you're like, that's the right answer. Like that's the right answer. Stress some more, my brother. Stress some more.
I mean, it's just reading the charts and all that. That's takes some getting used to, but
Oh, yeah. I mean, realistically, when you're doing the actual fragrance duplication, I mean, that's something that's 6 months, 18 months, 2 years, till you really can just tear into it, right? So
It's funny because somebody on YouTube asked that. They were like, oh, well, this is easy stuff. Be like, all right, yeah, go ahead. Try it. Like, be our guest. Like, I mean, we make it look easy. Like, and we do kind of play it down a little bit, but it's a lot of specs that go into it. We make it look easy. It's not brain surgery, but you ask a brain surgeon, I'm sure he's like, it's not that hard. So it's just because he knows what he's doing. Like, we know what we're doing, so it seems easy. But for a first timer trying to mimic what we're doing, it's kind of, I think it's hard.
Well, see, everybody's kiss, keep it simple, stupid, right? So no matter how complex something is, you just really need to dumb it down into a couple of steps and make it simple, right? So we try to do that, and we try to train people that way. But when people from the outside really start tearing into it, they go, wow, you make a very sophisticated product that has thousands of parts that are, different reactions, different processes, there's naturals. I mean, there's all these variations, but still you guys make it look simple, right? And that's the way it should be. I try not to say, oh, we're the only people that can do it. This is such magic that we do in this building. No, literally, if you grouped 4 or 5 senior people from the industry who knew what they were doing. You bought $500,000 worth of equipment. You bought $1 million inventory, and you got a decent facility and a team that halfway knew what they were doing. You got a shot. Step in, right? So a lot of people are like, oh,
It's not guaranteed though.
well, nothing's guaranteed. I mean, if we did a horrible job, we could tank this place in probably a matter of days, not even months. You know what I'm saying? But my whole thing is everybody should train everybody. So we should all be an open book. If you come to anybody in the company and have a valid question, we should give you an answer. It shouldn't be, let me do it, so that way you never learn. You should come to me. I show you how to do it, so you never have to come back to me again. Or, if you miss something or you need to be retaught, definitely we're available. But why should my senior people be doing something that could be taught to somebody else that they could handle, right? And I think what's happened in our industry is there's certain people that feel like they could be replaced, or they're worried about job security, so they don't want to train the people underneath them, right?
That doesn't happen. You talking about outside of AFI?
Outside.
Oh, I'm
right,
about to
from
say,
the
no, that's
industry.
not
Yeah,
us.
yeah. But literally, that's common in this industry, right? And we've had several of those people who have come through the company, and they came through the company. That's not going to work here. Like, literally, there is nothing in any department that you should not be able to do, right? You have a brain, I have a brain. If I can teach myself to do it, I can teach you to do it, and you should be able to handle it, right? Now, it may not be your daily job, right? But it's still beneficial for you to understand why we do it and how to do it, right? So as you're here and you're learning, there should never be a wall that's put up that someone says, nah, you don't need to learn that. You should, and you should understand why, right? So that's one of the benefits you will have here. We have a complete open door through all channels,
And I think
that's something that's rare. Honestly, really, that's all I wanted to do on this. This was like an introduction from where you came from, what you've been exposed to, what you're learning, and what we're hoping that you'll do in the future. So, I mean, realistically, anybody that's in your spot that's really learning the entire trade, I really want you to learn the whole experience, right? So I want you to understand how the samples go out. I want you to know how the customer goes through the evaluation process, why a customer doesn't buy a product. So literally, the customer gets a sample, and what is the deciding factor that they didn't buy? Was it formulated wrong? Did they not give us the proper information? Did it not work in their products? Whatever issue they had. Then when they actually place the order, how it goes through the system, how it goes into production. You're already learning QC, so how it's QC'd and how it goes out. If every employee in the building understood all of that, we'd have no issues or problems. Because literally, as everything came up, they would know how to handle it. It wouldn't be, I only know how to do the samples, so I can't help QC out. Or I know how to do QC, but I don't know how they do the extractions. If everybody had that breadth of knowledge, life would be simple. So from my point of view, you're spot on. You're right where you need to be.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's cool, bro. I like. Hey, so where do you see yourself in the future here? Like a year from now, what is it that you would want to accomplish? Like if you look back in this interview, be like, a year from now, I'm hoping I learned how to.
A year from now, well,
Well, not even a year at the rate you're going. 30 days from now, what do you want to be doing 30 years? 30 days from now. That you see
I think-
around the company, you're like, man, that's probably cool. Maybe I want to dabble in that too.
well, I went to QC, did the compounding. What I really want to learn how to do better is like to look at the charts when we're readjusting a formula, and like be able to tell, okay, this has a bunch of peaks all together. Okay, this is this chemical, or this is just one peak by itself. Like
That takes time, though,
So-
right? That
so
takes
this
time.
This has 6 peaks, so I know it's a citrus oil, but be able to tell the difference between this is lemon oil to orange oil, or if it has 1 peak and okay, it's benzyl acetate or dihydromercenol or one of the ingredients is, I agree with that. And that's just time. That's really all that is. So you're introduced into it, so you're learning, you're in the introduction stages, but the experience, you literally will be able to look at a chart without the computer even telling you, because literally the way the program is, you click on each one of the peaks and the peaks will start breaking down chemical identifiers. You'll be able to look at a run and be like, oh, I don't even need the computer. That's galaxolide, that's benzyl acetate, that's phenylethyl alcohol, that's dihydromercenol. Oh, here's the problem. The guy overshot vanillin, right? So, but all of that is experience over time. And see, and that's where Ron is. Ron doesn't actually have to look at the charts. He can literally lay one chart over the other and just by glancing at it say, oh, yeah, they overshot BB by 20%, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's That's that experience level.
Oh, that's cool. Yo, I didn't even know that. I thought every peak I didn't know you can tell what it is without clicking on it.
No, right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
The machine, like literally back in the day, we would have a GC run that would print out on a piece of paper. And we didn't have any of these software or chemical databases that we currently have. So literally we would have a cheat sheet because we would have shot every one of those raw materials on a separate shot, right? So literally it looks like a lie detector test, and we would have our cheat notes. If that peak is here, it's this chemical. If it's that peak is here, it's this chemical. And then we would lay all those sheets down, grab the new run that we were trying to figure out what it was, lay it over the top of it, and we'd say, oh, okay, so that peak right here should be phenylethyl alcohol. And that's realistically how that worked. Now the difference is, instead of it being on a piece of paper,
It's on the computer screen.
it's on the computer screen and we can pull it through.
I mean,
right?
I did that once. I mean, so I saw it, but again, I didn't know you could just see a peak and know what it was. That's weird. Well,
So-
not weird. That's just
Well, that's realistically where
cool, I
perfumers
guess.
realistically were not replaceable. Like, you only had a certain number of guys that actually could do that. And their nose was good enough that they could validate that this is that raw material and this is that raw. So literally those people were very limited.
So people had golden noses out here.
Now the equipment's doing 90% of the work. The variance in the raw material isn't enough for most people to be able to pick up. It's called a consumer nose. So it's limited a lot of that. So these people who used to make $500,000 a year, $250,000 a year, are now being replaced with lab techs that are coming out of college for $30,000 or $40,000 a year. It's really destroyed the industry. I know it's going to upset a lot of people, but
Right.
really, when you run the numbers, a lot of fragrance houses have got rid of their senior perfumery, bought these automated systems, and then brought in these newer techs.
So
Now,
you're saying we could have a perfumer with a broken nose?
that's where your money's spent. The person with the best nose wins, right? So I don't know how good your nose is, but in this industry, like your nose, it's very important. So if I triangle tested you,
Is that why you have insurance on your nose? Because I saw your insurance paper the other day. I saw your nose.
I have a massive policy all the way around. Yeah, but I mean, but literally what you're looking at is your nose decides how far you can go in this industry. And that's really what it is. So if you're in the lab and you can smell the raw materials and you can start picking them out, you're out in production and you can start picking out when someone mispours a can incorrectly or a batch is off before it goes to QC. Well, you become a senior guy out there. You become a senior person in the lab. Now, all of a sudden, you can smell a customer's duplication, and just by smelling it, you can list off 50 of the raw materials that go inside of it. That's impressive, right? But if your nose isn't good and you can't tell the raw material differences and you can't tell the variances, it limits what you can do in the industry, right? I'll be honest. I have a decent nose, but my nose is not on caliper with a high-dollar perfumer. So I consider mine a little bit better than a consumer's nose, but I've been in here for 20 years, so I know what the raw materials smell like. I can smell two bottles side by side and say, do they match or they don't? But to smell something and be like, that's mid-seasoned orange oil that's inside this citrus fragrance, and I don't think it came from Florida. I think it came from Italy. Yeah, I'm not there. And I don't want to be there because I don't need to be at that level.
So how do you train your nose? We gotta give Lukas the secret here.
So I had this great perfumer that taught me everything I know at the beginning. And he basically said, whenever you're compounding, and everybody comes in as a lab tech, that's usually step one. When you're in the lab and you're adding each ingredient into the beaker, because we have over 1,000 raw materials, smell each one, and then when you put it in the beaker, smell it in the compound. So you smell it and you go, cis-3-hexanol. Oh, that's a nice green note. Now smell it in the beaker with one drop that's going into a raspberry. And then what you're doing is you're training your nose that this is the raw material and this is what it smells like, and this is what it smells like in a finished product. Then over time,
Wait,
right,
so wait until the formula's done, then smell it, or
Nope.
after every pour?
as you're doing it, and you'll start picking it up. Because what you're doing is you're trying to train your nose to pick up that ingredient with a mixture of other chemicals. So if you could only pick it up in a finished fragrance,
Yeah, you would know.
you're not going to get it.
Is that
But
why
if you can smell
sometimes like
some
you
of the
need to
others-
pour certain raw materials before others, because if you put it in after certain
That's
other
because of
ones?
reactions.
Yeah. Oh, it makes sense.
So because of reactions, you don't
Right.
add certain ingredients. But the actual fragrance itself for you to learn, that's key. If you know the raw materials and you can start picking them out of compounds, there's no limits. But you have to, it's like your handicap, right? My nose is good, but it's not that good. Okay, my nose is good, but it's not at that level, but I still won the game because now we have a fragrance company that's doing excellent with a great staff, right? So you always have to remember that. There is ways around it, it just makes it harder, right? So.
Are you impressed by his
He reminds me of me a lot. I mean, actually sitting here watching him come into the company, right? I didn't have a sister that slid me in, but, you know, I came in as forklift driver. I came in, I just started learning some stuff. I liked it. I asked the right questions. People understood that and then started going the same path. And I see you doing the same thing. So as long as you're learning, you're focusing, people are going to give you as much knowledge as they possibly can, as long as you're retaining it. Right? So if I spend a day and I teach you something, right, and then you come up to me the next day and you don't have a clue about any of that, I'll stop teaching you. Right?
Yeah.
But if you retain it, and then now I have a good foundation, and the next day I teach you a couple things, and the next day a couple things. And that's realistically how I learned from that perfumer is every day he would just teach me some little thing, right? Stupid little things. I remember one day I dropped a bottle, it hit the ground, and it broke, right? He walks up to me, he goes, "You know how you stop that?" I said, "Yeah, you don't drop stuff on the floor." He said, No. If a bottle's falling out of your hand and you know it's about to hit the floor, just stick your foot under it. It doesn't matter if you get a toe under it, if it just bounces off your foot, whatever. It takes 75% of that gravity force that'll make it break, and it'll bounce off of you and it won't shatter. The next time I drop one, it hit my foot, I punted it through a window, right? Now, literally, it fell, hit my foot, and I kicked it so hard, it went like flying through the room, and we had glass shelves and stuff, and it busted a shelf out, right? So it was worse, right? But I understood it. The next time after that, it fell, it hit my shoe, it hit the ground, it didn't break, right? It was good advice. I destroyed it on execution, but the next time after that, I was fine, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Don't go around kicking bottles, man. Like, don't do it.
But literally, our lab was like a concrete floor. So it was like a tile floor, but literally, if it hit, it shattered, right? And labs that we have now, we have carpet on both of them. But the library, right, prime example, we never had a problem with a bottle breaking ever in the company in like 5 years. We get the library, has a concrete floor. We bust like 5 within the first 2 days.
Dang.
Okay, everybody needs to learn. Let's walk out there and be trained. If you're going to drop it, kick it with your foot, and hopefully it won't break. Right? So,
Tap it with your foot. Tap it. Slide your foot. All right, so in 6 weeks, you might be a senior perfumer?
We'll see, I guess, in 6 weeks. Maybe.
Right. Start training that nostrils, bro. Like,
Yeah.
but that's key. Our industry is fragrance. Knowledge is the biggest part of it, but smelling it is key. So as long as you have a good nose and an open mind,
and a good
lifer.
head. Good nose, good head, and a good sister.
Yep.
Yep. That's 3 ingredients.
Dang, I don't have a good sister here. Oh, no. Yes, I do.
I was
yes,
about
I do.
to say.
No, I
great.
do.
And by the way, German just apparently like dumped on his sister works here, and he just
Yeah,
said that.
plus his
And his
sister-
sister's fine. So I don't know where that came from.
I'm just
So,
playing,
It's
Linda.
like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even catch that, man. Yeah. It's a family business. A lot of people don't understand. We say we're family because there's a lot of families in here.
Right.
It's a lot of families.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, we got a future senior perfumer in our presence, man, Luke.
Carry on.
Thank you for coming out, man. We appreciate
right.
you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah. Till next time.
The person with the best nose wins.
Has anybody seen Josh?